Gohan says Kamehameha, but this is actually the Masenko. He does this 3 more times in this episode, so we're just going to add on the 3 here and keep it moving. Okay, so I want to point this out. In the manga version of this scene, everything plays out the same. Vegeta talks to the doctor, talks about Frieza to himself, then leaves the room without taking the scouter. The difference is after Vegeta and Kui talk about Frieza going to Namek, Vegeta runs to his space pod, and on the way there he passes the doctor and then grabs the scouter. This doesn't happen in the manga. In the manga, it's never shown that Vegeta grabs the scouter from the doctor. We see Vegeta go to his pod without it, then the next time we see him, he has it in his hands. Now the space pod could have had a scouter in it, but I'm giving the anime a point here for actually showing it rather than leaving it up to interpretation and kind of creating a plot hole, so to speak. Gohan and Krillin could have just blew up the boulder instead of trying to slow it down. Finally, we're past the filler episodes and we're starting the Namek saga, which is my favorite part of Dragon Ball Z out of the whole series. We're introduced to Frieza and his gang. We get to see the sort of cat and mouse game that everyone plays in these first 10 or 15 episodes. And Brian Drummond really starts to shine as the voice of Vegeta. I'm giving them a point here just off of nostalgia.
I don't think you have to worry about seeing that monkey-tailed abomination again.
The start of the Dragon Ball Z racism. I don't know what's going on with Vegeta's eyes here.
Kaioken times 10!
Goku says Kaioken, but doesn't have the red aura around him, and instead does a Kamehameha. He does this twice, so I'm gonna give this 2 mistakes. 2 episodes ago, Apule was sent out with Zarbon to scout, and now in this episode, a different colored henchman is seen scouting, and then after Frieza kills him, Apule comes out. This entire sequence is so good to me. Vegeta's character is very well written here. It just shows how he's not only a strong fighter, but also very smart and cunning. I think his intelligence is overshadowed by his ego a lot of times, and fans don't appreciate this side of Vegeta, so I just wanted to point this out. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Drummond.
I'll get you for this! You won't escape my wrath! I'll get you! You're all mine!
Okay, now I'm usually the one that is okay with filler because I know why they had to use filler. Now I do. They had to stay a certain distance away from the manga to not overlap, plus the story was being written at the same time. I get it. But this entire episode is a waste of time. Bulma has a nightmare about Vegeta, then goes underwater because she lost a Dragon Ball and has to fight a giant crab or something to get it back. I struggled to get through this on my rewatch. Same thing with this episode. Huge waste of time. 2 of Frieza's men find Bulma and she tricks them into going underwater because they want the Dragon Balls to themselves. We do get a few minutes of Goku's training, which is cool, but that's about it until the end of this episode when it picks back up. Okay, I like this little touch they did with the title card, how the word scramble was unscrambled.
Why is this thing in here? It's no good. I think I'll have a sports soda instead. It's much better for me and tastes great.
You gotta love motivational Goku. The background color that flashed for Captain Ginyu, Jace, and Goldo had their correct colors, but for Berter and Raccoon had blue and Berter had orange. Those were in reverse for some reason. Vegeta's tail is missing in Goldo's flashback. Berter bet that Goldo would lose and Raccoon bet that he would win.
If I were a betting man, I'd say Goldo's gonna lose.
How astute! Thanks for pointing out the obvious, Berter.
Hang on a minute, I'll take that bet. One chocolate nut bar says he wins.
Okay, you're on.
But here Berter said that he bet that Goldo would win and takes the chocolate.
I think the deal was I'd get the peanut bar if Goldo won.
Well, I guess you win. Here's your stinking chocolate.
You are certainly on the ball today, Captain Ginyu. If you were a dog, I'd scratch your belly. If you were a cat, I'd give you warm milk until you started to purr. But since you're neither of these, I'll just say thanks for a job well done.
It was my pleasure. You know how much I enjoy serving your Horned Highness.
This whole conversation, I'm glad that we only have one episode left of the Ocean dub. So this is always a big conversation when it comes to Goku. He just randomly does this with no explanation on how he learned it, and then he never uses it again. The manga explanation is even funnier because he says he just had a feeling it would work. This isn't a mistake or anything, but I just wanted to point this out. It's just a weird ability that he magically learned and never uses again ever in the series. This is the first mention of the Super Saiyan in the series. I know Vegeta mentioned it in the Saiyan saga against Gohan, but he wasn't saying it in this context.
Well, look, Kakarot's son, the little Super Saiyan.
Mentioning it this early is great because we get what amounts to about a 30 episode build up in the edited version, and he doesn't just get this power out of nowhere. Here we go. There's a lot to talk about in this episode, so let's break it down. I had to do the research, but there was a 1-year break in between the previous episode and this one, when Ocean Dub left and Funimation took over. This is when DBZ started to appear on Toonami and blasted its popularity in America. This was in August of 1998, and Toonami was showing reruns of the Ocean Dub. This episode, Ginyu Assault, first aired September 1999. The Ocean Dub left because of disagreements, mainly due to censorship, which we see is heavy in the previous episodes. It's kind of ironic because once DBZ started showing on Toonami, it wasn't really censored that much at all, even in the edited version. Secondly, we are introduced to the Bruce Falconer score. Now I know a lot of fans have issues with it, but you have to remember this is how many fans were introduced to the series. Also, a lot of his scores make scenes better, in my opinion. You can play any track and you can point to a moment or moments in the show. That's what a good soundtrack does. Say what you want about the music, but the fact is that this version of Dragon Ball Z is what made it skyrocket in popularity in America. Lastly, obviously the voice actors changed, but Chris Sabat, who voices Vegeta, you might notice something strange about his voice.
Kakarot? Unbelievable! Don't be a fool, Kakarot! He's destroyed more people than you know!
He was actually trying to mimic Brian Drummond's voice to kind of create a smoother transition between dubs, I guess. He does this for a few episodes until he kind of gets into his own. Ironically, I think the different voices for Vegeta kind of mimics his mindset in the series. We get that raspy voice in the beginning to represent the crazy, bloodthirsty version. Then we slowly transition into the mellow, deep voice that represents him calming down and being a Saiyan prince.
I'm so close I just can't stand it. Ooh, soon the power of those balls will be at my disposal.
First off, before I even get into this topic, rest in peace to Chris Ayers. What you've done as the voice of Frieza from Dragon Ball Z Kai to now is amazing. I'm not going to make this a which one is better thing, but both of these voices work for Frieza depending on what you're going for. I think Linda Young works here depicting Frieza as a sadistic, pure evil monster, where Chris's version depicts him as a sophisticated emperor. I don't really like how people go back and shit on Linda just because they prefer Chris. I think they both do good. It's okay to have a preference, but you don't have to downplay one to prop up the other. Let's enjoy both. Let's acknowledge Linda as the stepping stone, as the, originator that brought Frieza to us. And Chris Ayers took that and expanded upon it.
Well, this Saiyan is. He might be a mutant like us. He's definitely different. He's the first Saiyan that I've ever seen without a tail.
Technically, Vegeta is the first Saiyan he's seen without a tail. This episode is actually almost 30 minutes rather than the 18 to 21 minutes that the other episodes run at, due to them having leftover footage from the previous episode. This is the first time we hear the iconic Hell's Bells theme song. There's absolutely no one that can deny how great this theme is. And see, this is what I'm saying. Go to any YouTube video with an iconic Bruce Falconer track and you'll see a bunch of people quoting lines from the show. Go ahead, do it right now. Pause the video and go do it right now and then come back. Frieza's pants are black but then changes to purple and then changes back to black. Frieza's chest armor is purple but then changes to black and then changes back to purple. The color on Frieza's lips are missing.
Goku's trapped in another dimension.
You sure sent that planet to another dimension.
I'm talking to you with my mind from another dimension.
He thinks he's in the next dimension when he's on the throne.
Summon the eternal dragon and wish Goku back to their dimension, which managed to succeed in transporting Yamcha into another dimension.
I'm gonna take this big bully into another dimension.
But he's already been wished back to this dimension once before.
Don't worry about your friend. You'll be seeing him soon in the next dimension. A nice trip to another dimension. One way.
It seems that Piccolo will be leaving this dimension soon, Popo.
Chaozu latched onto Nappa in an attempt to escort him personally to another dimension.
You'd be waiting at a bus stop somewhere in the next dimension.
I want them all in the next dimension.
I'm phasing into another dimension.
Somebody must be passing into another dimension.
Soon we will both be in another dimension.
And depending on us to bring him back to this dimension.
The noble act caused Piccolo to phase into another dimension.
Maybe you won't be such a disappointment in the next dimension. And whoever cut my tail off will be joining you shortly in the next dimension.
I guess we all suffered quite a loss now that our friends are in the next dimension. And when they shifted phases, the Dragon Balls disappeared with them into the next dimension.
I need to help get the Dragon Ball so we can bring Piccolo back to this dimension.
If I cross your new dimension.
And he sent Kui to another dimension.
Time to launch someone into another dimension.
For I will let you go to another dimension.
And launched Dodoria to another dimension.
I'll send you into another dimension. In a new dimension.
Some of our friends passed into the next dimension during a big battle.
They told us how to find King Kai when we first arrived here in this new dimension. So that we can return to your dimension.
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but he was sent to another dimension.
Perhaps I'll see you someday in the next dimension.
Guess you were blasted to another dimension for no reason at all.
Now it's time to send you to the next dimension.
While sending the ghoulish Guldo to another dimension.
How are we gonna wish Piccolo and the others back to this dimension?